Hello, my name is Madison Barfoot, and today I will be talking about the beneficial reuse of methane gas that is captured from waste sources. So what waste sources produce methane? There are several waste sources that produce methane as a byproduct of the breakdown of organic waste. So the EPA states that municipal solid waste landfills, that MSW right here, are the third largest source of human-related methane emissions in the United States, and these account for approximately 14.4% of these emissions, and that was from 2022. So we also have wastewater treatment plants and livestock farms. For the sake of this discussion, I'll mostly be talking about the landfills and wastewater treatment plants. So broadly for waste decomp, there are two stages. So we've got aerobic and anaerobic. As you can see by this graph, the aerobic stage is really quick. We've got high nitrogen and oxygen as the name implies, but we have no methane really. So as we move into that anaerobic stage, we start to get this green methane right here. And this methane is coming from bacteria. So the bacteria is what's doing the decomp, and they are also the ones that are generating this methane. And this takes 1 to 5 years after placement. So generally speaking, landfill gas is half methane and half carbon dioxide. So why do we care about landfill gas? So carbon dioxide and methane are greenhouse gases, and they are highly flammable. So we've got a safety concern and obviously an ecological concern with that greenhouse gas. So landfill gas must be collected and cannot be vented freely to the atmosphere for these reasons. So also note there are a small amount of trace contaminants. We'll speak a little bit about it later. I do want to pull your attention specifically to these NMOCs right here. These are non-methane organic compounds. We also got some sulfides and ammonia, which we will talk about later. So landfill gas is collected through wells. Wells are generally just pipes that route the gas either to a flare or a collecting system. So in this discussion, it's only natural to compare landfill gas to natural gas collection and extraction. I do want to note, though, that this is a very big picture discussion. It does not really allow for the nuance we need to really make the comparison. But for the ease of understanding, I will be comparing landfill processes to natural gas processes, just because I think generally we're more familiar with the natural gas process. So here, you can compare these landfill wells to like a natural gas well, but instead of going like deep into the earth with the natural gas wells, you're just going into the landfill. So the natural gas wells would obviously go deep into the earth to collect that fossil fuel source natural gas. This just goes into the landfill here. And there are three main pathways for beneficial use of landfill gas. They all require a little bit of TLC, a little bit of treatment, or a little bit of processing. So you can convert landfill gas to electricity. You can use it as a medium BTU fuel. You'll notice here all of this is like thermal applications. It's not for like a vehicle fuel or electricity fuel or anything like that. Or you can use it as a high BTU, renewable natural gas. For all intents and purposes, you can think of this as like pipeline quality gas. Of course, landfills could burn the landfill gas in a flare. They generally cannot vent the landfill gas to the atmosphere, as we spoke about before. So I just wanted to make that point to demonstrate that there is a cost, even if landfills do not utilize any of these three. There still is a cost associated, even if it's just compliance-based, for like flare maintenance, flare implementation. So there is still a cost even if it's not in one of these categories. So first up that we're going to be talking about is electricity generation. So generally, landfill gas is burnt in a combustion engine, and that converts landfill gas to mechanical energy. So that mechanical energy can be run through a generator, converted to electric gas, and then that can be used locally or it can be sent to the grid. So approximately 63% of currently operating landfill gas projects at this time use electricity generation. So why is it? Most places that are doing this are using this pathway. So electricity is a commodity we all pay for. Therefore, this could be profitable for a lot of facilities. Next, we have the medium BTU fuel. We can use this in boilers, dryers, kilns, greenhouses, or other thermal applications. So it's not hot enough, again, to be used to power vehicles, keep the lights on, or anything like that. Only 17% of currently operating projects utilize this. So if you don't have a use for it in like a boiler or a kiln, is this profitable? Usually no. So it's not as used as the other pathways. So lastly, we have renewable natural gas, which is biogas or landfill gas that has been upgraded or treated for use in place of fossil fuel sourced gas. To make another bridge to traditionally sourced fossil fuel natural gas world, this treatment can be thought of like a midstream gas treatment facility. So in a traditional natural gas facility, they would pump it, and if there were impurities based on the source or whatever, they would have to treat that out. And it's kind of the same concept here, except inherently you know there's going to be impurities because, as we talked about earlier, it's at least 50% CO2, also trace contaminants and other things like that. And this one is 20% of current projects. So this is pretty profitable, as you can imagine, because it can be injected into the natural gas pipeline. But it is also quite costly to do all of that treatment for the landfill gas. So generally treatment is as follows. So you want to remove the moisture first. This is trace contaminants. I think it's like siloxanes are used here. And then CO2 removal. Also, you want to really reduce that nitrogen and oxygen. You can also see in this graphic the 3 pathways that we discussed. So this is the thermal application. It uses arts and crafts and a boiler in this one. Then we have electricity, and then down here we have the high BTU. So you can also see that there is advanced treatment needed to go for that renewable natural gas that just isn't needed for the other 2 pathways. So what are the benefits of using renewable natural gas? So first, jobs and money, right? So there are thousands of both operational jobs and construction jobs per 100 new renewable natural gas facilities. So also renewable natural gas is sold, and that's through a traditional natural gas pipeline along with the traditionally sourced natural gas. So that obviously generates money as well. If you choose to use it locally instead of making money, you're saving it. So that can be dependent on the market. And it offers you some elasticity to move with the market. Natural gas market isn't always the same. It's dependent, like we talked about before, politically, supply issues, demand issues. So that gives you a little bit of leverage to have some elasticity on making the choice if you're going to use it locally or sell it to that natural gas pipeline. And last, like we already spoke about, I keep bringing up that flares also cost money. So as we're doing this cost-benefit analysis, it's just kind of important that we are comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. And we also look at the other side. So if you don't utilize a renewable natural gas like pathway, you're still going to have to spend some money on that landfill gas. So I just wanted to point that out as we're talking about the benefits. So now we're going to move into a case study. So this is Woolworth landfill in Shreveport, Louisiana. And this is a photo taken. So they currently operate a renewable natural gas facility at the municipal solid waste landfill. So we got to visit this facility earlier this year doing compliance inspection. This facility definitely made me interested to learn more about this process. Generally they convert landfill gas to renewable natural gas and they inject that into the pipeline. So let's take a second here with this gray box and let's reflect on the players, right? And think about the monetary benefit that each entity benefits. So first we have the city of Shreveport who owns and operates the landfill. So Shreveport receives money in exchange for the gas it produces. Again, making a bridge to traditional landfills. So if it was traditional, you could almost think of it as like they have the mineral rights. So next, University of California implemented and operates the treatment units. So let's think about the benefits to a university. They're not really for profit, right? So we are looking at grants, which is project utilized, study and technology development. So I also want to note, we'll talk about it later as well, but Woolworth wasn't just drawn out of the hat. It's really a fantastic candidate for this type of facility. Again, we'll discuss that later. But they chose this facility for the reasons that it could benefit them in their study and their grant and in their technology development. And so last we have Enable Midstream. They operate the natural gas pipeline that is receiving the renewable natural gas. So they are buying the product and they are selling it to the end user. So really no mystery of the benefit to them, right? And also Shreveport is located on that Haynesville Shale, as we will discuss later. So they're utilizing existing infrastructure. So Enable Midstream has pipelines all over this area. So as I continue to discuss Woolworth, specifically in this case study, I will really work on trying to demonstrate cost benefit to this sort of thing, since I am taking for granted that my audience of, young environmental professionals or soon-to-be professionals, that we see the ecological benefit of moving from fossil fuels or at least diversifying our energy sources. So I will be talking a lot about the economical side of it, just because I take for granted kind of that we are more attuned to the ecological benefits of diversifying and decarbonizing our energy sources. So I'll be very general here. I'm not an engineer, guys, but let's talk about the process description of what they do specifically at Woolworth. So first we have refrigeration. It's going to knock out that moisture, right? So as the gas gets colder, it's going to condense, so it knocks out that moisture. Then we have to compress it. Generally, we can think about our gas laws. As the gas gets colder, it needs to come back up to some pressure, right? Then we have VOC and sulfur removal. In this case, it is done by filters. Then it goes to a thermal oxidizer where CO2, other contaminants are removed. And then at this point, it's pipeline quality gas. So it's about 98% methane, which is pretty incredible. Sourced from a waste material, and it is able to be injected directly into that natural gas pipeline, and it is utilized, like traditionally sourced natural gas. So let's come back to cost-benefit conversation. Like I said, Woolworth is a very good candidate for this to work. This is in part because Shreveport is a larger city and we are located on the Haynesville Shale. So the Haynesville Shale produces a lot of natural gas. It's kind of like the eastern part of Texas and the northwestern part of Louisiana. So we have existing pipeline infrastructure all around. The facility also had existing wells. So before they treated the natural gas for renewable natural gas, they have wells. You can kind of see it here, not very well, but they use those wells to route it toward a flare instead of a treatment unit. So they already had that infrastructure as well. So as we spoke about earlier, they utilized a grant for this project. So obviously it greatly reduces the amount of upfront cost of all those treatment units. And the facility is paid for the gas produced. Normally, again, that would be burned off in a flare, so literally up in smoke, right? So in this case, it really does make sense economically for all involved. But I do want to just point out there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of entities. So this is more or less a really kind of perfect situation, and I think it's why this project in particular was really successful. So I do want to talk about wastewater sources, just touch on it. These are much more rare than landfills. So the process is almost the same. You can think about the anaerobic phase that we talked about in landfill gas. Just in this case, it's an anaerobic digester for sludge. This could be untapped potential because those factors we talked about in the last slide with the infrastructure, they seem to line up well for these plants. So we're talking about mega facilities that process over 5 million gallons of sewage a day. So 2/3 of those are plants located very near existing pipelines. So like we're talking about leveraging existing infrastructure, we can do that here as well. Same thing as landfills, you can't release methane. So I've seen wastewater treatment plants that do utilize flares. Again, it's much more uncommon than seeing a flare at a landfill. However, if they're using that, they have the existing land infrastructure to collect that gas like we were talking about earlier. So there's also some really interesting discourse in if this is the future for developing countries. So we have issues with waste, infrastructure, and energy in these type of discussions. So we are still divided on that this is the perfect fit, but it definitely looks promising as we develop these new technologies. So renewable natural gas does have its criticism, so it's not always profitable. We kind of talked about how, specifically in Woolworth, it's a perfect scenario, right? But it's not always perfect, of course. In some cases, it's actually much more expensive, right? So also critics say that it's not worth the investment because only renewable natural gas can only replace about 10% of the fossil fuel source natural gas. Also, here we come back to ammonia. So some critics are really concerned that the ammonia is not effectively treated out. There are trace amounts to the end user, which can cause several problems, including health problems. So I'll end with saying every facility is not a good fit, right? The argument could be made that most facilities are not a good fit for renewable natural gas. But I do believe we are underutilizing a technology that could be beneficial just because it won't fit everywhere and everything. So again, I will conclude again with my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out here on our forum with any questions or discussions. So looking forward to discussing more with y'all. Thank you.